Happy New Year to you all, and welcome back to school, albeit to Prior Park Virtual. I hope you are all well, and that the first day of term yesterday started smoothly. One of my favourite actors of the last 20 years or so was Heath Ledger. He was remarkably talented and could do comedy, 10 Things I Hate About You, romance, Brokeback Mountain, and menace, The Dark Knight, with equal brilliance. He died in 2008, aged only 28, and shortly afterwards he won a posthumous Oscar for his role as Batman's antagonist, the Joker, in The Dark Knight. The film of his that I most enjoy watching, though, is in fact one of his sillier offerings, A Knight's Tale. It's really loosely based on the work of the 14th century poet and author Geoffrey Chaucer, who is a character in the film. It's a fun film, based largely on medieval jousting, and the soundtrack is peppered with modern rock hits by Queen and AC/DC. It is a hoot and an interesting exploration of social status in the medieval world, and one man's attempt to prove himself worthy of a higher station in life. A motif that runs through the film is the phrase, "You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting." It is this phrase that's been running through my head over the past few days. It comes from the biblical story of Belshazzar's feast, in which the Babylonian king Belshazzar has a huge party and uses the booty that his father Nebuchadnezzar had looted from the first Jewish temple in Jerusalem. A ghostly hand appears and writes in Hebrew on the wall of the feasting chamber. This is where we get the phrase, "the writing is on the wall," which means that something bad is about to happen. One of the phrases on Belshazzar's wall that the ghostly hand wrote was, "You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting." Belshazzar was being punished by God for his blasphemy, and he was killed that very same night. Found wanting is an interesting phrase. It means that you haven't risen to the challenge or lived up to the expectations. Instead, you have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting. Weights and measures are fascinating things that we use all the time. When you are filling up your car, do you do it in litres or gallons? When you're baking a cake, do you weigh the flour in pounds or grams? What about when you're weighing yourself, stones or kilos? I wonder if, like me, you've got a wall in your house covered with markings. The height wall. It measures how tall you and your brothers and sisters were at particular moments. The measurements on it matter so much to my children, as they will themselves to be taller than each other and to pass my 6'3" or 193 centimetres as soon as they can. One of the best investments I made over lockdown 2 was these. They're wine measures. Now, like many grown-ups, lockdown 1 had seen my alcohol consumption creep up a little, and I wanted to get a proper handle on it. So I brought these. They're great. They allow me to keep a completely accurate record of how much of the demon drink I'm having each day, recording it on my phone and trying, and mostly succeeding, to stay below the upper limit of 14 units of alcohol a week that the government advises. Measuring my alcohol consumption means that other measures I use as to my own fitness and health have come into play. I can now wear a 44-inch suit again, and I got into some 34-inch waist jeans I'd not worn in about 5 years. All good signs of things going well. So, some objective measures, a 125ml glass of wine rather than just a glass, whatever that means, have helped my subjective measures. My clothes fit that little bit better, and I'm sleeping well. How, though, do we decide on those objective measures and ensure that they are the same as each other? Back in ancient Rome, there was an elected position to do this. It was called a curule aedile. One responsibility of the aediles was to check the weights and measures of all the tradespeople in Rome. This meant that they could make sure that customers weren't being cheated. The Romans checked on businesses and they fined those who were swindling their customers. In the UK now, we use metric measurements for almost everything. These were developed in revolutionary France of the 1790s. One of the earliest measures was the metre, which was defined as 1/10,000,000th of the length of a quadrant on the Earth's surface from the equator to the North Pole. Everything in the UK must, according to law, be sold in metric measures, with 3 exceptions: beer and cider, milk, and precious metals. Back in 2019, long before COVID, Boris Johnson declared that Brexit would mean that businesses would no longer be prosecuted for using the old imperial systems of measures. Britain continues, though, to be a hybrid of the imperial measurements and the metric system. We mostly still use miles per hour when driving and feet for height, but increasingly people use kilos for weight. The metric system, or SI units as we now call it, is used by pretty much every country in the world, with the exception of Liberia, Myanmar and the USA. Imperial measurements and fairly recent coups d'etat, or attempted coups d'etat, are what those countries seem to have in common. Actually, the USA does use the metric system a fair bit. Wine, coins and SI units are fairly common, but imperial is still what they say they do, and they manage to fight off the coup d'etat. No matter which system of weights or measures you use, you can still be weighed, measured and found wanting. Weighing and measuring have perhaps been part of my thoughts over the last few days because of the government's decision to cancel this summer's A-level and GCSE examinations. They made this decision without announcing what will replace them. In many ways, GCSEs and A-levels are a mechanism of weighing and measuring. They weigh what you have learned. They measure how effectively you're able to revise, retain and recall information. They measure you against both your peers and against an objective standard. There's been a fair bit written about GCSEs and A-levels over the past few months. Lots of educationalists would like to see them abolished, perhaps especially GCSEs. It's really easy to point out the many flaws in the present system and how it isn't necessarily great prep for life in the real world. Most jobs nowadays don't rely upon your ability to work alone, in silence, in a big hall, without Google, with pen and paper for 3 hours straight. Sure, it's not great, but it is what we have. Some commentators have called for us to use COVID to change the system, tearing it down and building something better. I instinctively rail against these calls. I don't like the opportunism of ideologues, and I think we need much more time to accurately assess what could replace our current system. As last year's centre-assessed grades debacle showed, algorithms certainly are not the answer. The same people who advocated those centre-assessed grades now tell us that teacher-assessed grades are the way forward and will be used this summer. I don't know, and seemingly nor does anyone else, what this teacher-assessed grade system will actually mean. Many would say that teachers are the best equipped to judge, to weigh, and to measure our students. In many ways, that's right. We know you well, and we know what you are capable of. On the other hand, most teachers care deeply about you. They want you to succeed in life, and they will always give you the benefit of the doubt. Can they ever be truly objective? I'm not sure. One of the virtues of the undoubtedly flawed A-level and GCSE exams in a hall system is that it is impersonal, and so avoids that pitfall. Weighing and measuring have been part of education for as long as modern education has existed. Tests, quizzes, exams, coursework, controlled assessments have all been methods used to measure what you know. Here at Prior Park, we will listen to the updates from the government, and we will attempt to create a fair system that allows all of our students to show us what they can do. It may then change the following year, but those are the times that we live in. All that you, as students, can do is continue to work hard in your subjects and try to enjoy them. Exams and their outcomes have become increasingly important in education. League tables for schools based on exam results were introduced nearly 30 years ago, and they don't look set to disappear anytime soon. Societies, communities, and people in general tend to value what we can measure and record. I want you to think about your Christmas presents. Did you immediately try and reckon how much they'd cost? If so, then you're missing the point. The presents you received are all about the thought that went into them, not their market value. Education should be the same. Exams matter, and they are a part of the whole of your educational experience, but only a part. If you finish school with results that are the best you are capable of, then great. If you have a clear sense of who you are, then that's better. If you have both of those, and you have confidence, friends, an ability to work collaboratively, a good attitude towards sport and your own physical fitness, an engagement with the creative arts, and a broad cultural hinterland, you're doing even better. If you can combine all of these with some get up and go and the ability to care for other people, then you're getting close to the complete package. Virtually none of those things that I've just mentioned can be weighed or measured objectively. However, should that stop us trying to aim for them? If you have the best exam results in the country, but your education by your family and your school hasn't provided you with the rest of that list, then your education will have been found wanting. Uncertainty doesn't help anyone. We may be able to build a better examination system over the next few years, but we aren't going to manage it in the next week and a half. Here at Prior, we know that education is more than exams. Focus on them, yes, but not to the detriment of all the other things that make Prior and you. Let's finish with a prayer by a Scottish clergyman, Peter Marshall. Lord, where we are wrong, make us willing to change. And where we are right, make us easy to live with. Amen. Have a great week.